Well, I'm sitting down here with somebody. We're going to be talking about a very important topic, and that is of battery backups, UPSs, but not the brown trucks, right? Not the brown trucks.
No, not those.
Okay, great. Not the brown trucks. So my guest today is...
I'm Michael David Ray. My radio nickname's always been Xrey. That's how everyone knows me in the business. And I've been around, since 1972 with doing just about every job in radio and seen about every transmitter and, FM and AM transmitter situation you could possibly imagine at this point.
And I've known you for quite a while now, since my time starting with SBE and attending meetings. And I remember you, when I first met you, you were the guy who brought the projector every time to the meeting.
Yeah, in the pull-up banner and all that.
Yep.
I'm always promotion centric too. I'm always want to make sure pictures are taken of our presentations and everything.
Exactly. So, not to wander too far off of our topic, but UPSs, uninterruptible power supplies, or systems. Are there different kinds? I mean, I know the kinds that I've seen are mostly just kind of battery rack mounted, have a nice day, see you later. But I mean, are there different kinds? What have you come across?
There are different kinds. I mean, there's a city in Alaska that has the largest UPS in the world that backs up an entire city. If I can grab this real fast out of the scope of the camera, I forgot to bring UPS right here.
Show me. What do we got?
This is an APC that I have a lot of these. These are good for desk computers or backing up anything that's not not a kilowatt transmitter or anything, but a lot of anything like in office situations, and it's got it's got 3 outlets that are on the UPS, and it also has 3 outlets that are on what we call shore power that are not UPS backed up. So you would want to plug in like a computer monitor on that, because if you have a power failure, the computer monitor is going to use up all your current and run the UPS down faster. So you plug that in. You don't want to plug that into the battery. Have that controlled by the battery. And anything else like television, like you have a television, you don't want that to be on a UPS, but you want your computer, and your maybe you have a router that has your internet on it. You want that to be backed up. So you want to plug that into the right outlets. And they're all different. They have different run times, but you want to, they don't run for 6 hours at a time in a power failure. I mean, you want to have it, take care of power bumps or, short interruptions, not, less than 30 minutes. And even if you get 30 minutes out of UPS, you're doing good more, most of the time.
Yeah, I know the UPSs that I dealt with, we had, I think at the most 45 minutes, but realistically it was like 35. Because at 10 minutes left, you're frantically shedding load. And I had that happen one time where we ran our 2 battery backups, facility backups all the way down because the generator just didn't start.
Yeah, and generators, we'll get into that later, but generators, running UPS is another thing, because generators are known to not have the most perfect power. And UPSs want to see a very specific waveform. They want to see, almost perfect power. Well, depending on the generator, you may or may not get that. So even though you have a backup generator, your stuff on UPSs may not run, and then you're off the air.
I have firsthand experience with that happening.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Basically, at one of our sites, the landlord had replaced the generator, and it went from a 3-phase to a 2-phase, 3-phase to a single phase, and they didn't bother telling anybody. And our UPS, it kicked on, and the UPS went, oh, hey, I need to be on battery power. This is not what I'm expecting. When it transitioned back to utility, it stayed on the UPS batteries because it didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
it was so confused.
Yeah, and then again, you'll be, even though you have a generator, the UPS took over, and then you're off the air because it's not going to run, for very long. I know when we had our studios on campus at the college, I started doing maintenance down there, and And the station used to have a generator that was part of one of the Marine programs that they had there. When the Marine program was over after 5 years, they took their generator with them, which I mean, once you put in a generator, I think you should leave it, but that's just me. So they were doing all these power cutovers and construction. And so I'd have to go down there on the weekend for a power cutover. And I discovered that when they cut the power, one whole rack would run like 1 second. And I'm like, okay, well, the UPS didn't have any errors or anything. Then we ended up going on, a playback system at the transmitter. Then I started getting deep into the weeds on why the racks weren't staying up for more than 1 set. One stayed up for 25 minutes, and I started getting into it, and I found out, well, the battery swelled up in this one. No one, there's not a swelling up battery indicator on any of these units. So, you have to do maintenance and preventative maintenance, on these things. You can't just let them just sit there for 5 years and not expect something to happen.
Right. I want to kind of circle back to what we were. The first question was the different types of UPSs. I had never seen a flywheel UPS before, and I saw one at a TV site here outside of Denver, and boy, is that thing loud and annoying. But I guess it gives them enough power, keeps everything up long enough.
I saw a picture of one, and I was like, that looks like a hamster wheel from like the 80s. I mean, it was giant. It was like, I think a guy was riding it like a bike or something, trying to generate power. And I'm like, well, we don't have those. Hopefully no one in LA has one of those, but there are other types. I mean, you've got a standby system, like this brand here that will kick in when the power goes out, when the power goes back on. And I'm surprised it's not beeping since I unplugged it. That's another, that's kind of unusual, but anyway, they usually plug. But have the standby system. Then you have a line interactive that will it's always on shore power until shore power, your utility power goes away, and then it just instantaneously kicks into the battery. So the power is always going through the UPS, just not on the battery circuit. And then you have a true online UPS that gives you higher quality, and it's compact size. And then there's hybrid versions for improved, energy efficiency. So you want to get the UPS that's appropriate for, your facility or your office situation. And if you have a small IT closet, for example, you should have a decent sized, UPS for that you can monitor remotely, because, a lot of people don't go into, IDF closets or whatever all the time to check out those things. And they will fail on you if you don't, but they will last longer if you get a decent one, you get paid for.
And you mentioned monitoring him. I think that is huge. Monitoring what your power is doing, being able to see, am I on utility power? Am I on battery power? And some of the nicer ones have like SNMP. So that'll give you a runtime or a battery percentage, so you can kind of see, hey, we're getting kind of low on battery. What are we going to do here?
Correct. So, and you can hook them up to the, your network and monitor these things. A lot of people just don't do that, especially smaller, stations with maybe a one-man IT and engineering, operation who's just running, putting out fires all the time. A lot of times the monitoring never gets done. And then, when you find out the UPS doesn't work, it's too late. People are asking questions. So yeah, you want to hook those up, either SNMP or, monitor them somehow. And they all have variable, ways to monitor. Some are better than others, but you want to get depending how important it is, you want to monitor your rack room, or, maybe not your home office, but certainly if you're at a major facility, you want to make sure all your computers stay up. And you see these things happening before they happen. If the battery starts getting soft, and we'll show you a soft battery in a little while. Making sure that you have a backup power system, having the ability to monitor it. I mean, no matter what
generation of technology that you have, whether it's cart machines and reel-to-reel players or turntables or computer playout, if you don't have power, you don't have a station.
That's correct. And you want to get a UPS that's rated for what your load is. So if especially you mentioned cart machines. Well, cart machines are going to take up a lot more power than say 3 CD players, for example, or just one computer. Hopefully, it's an Energy Star computer, and a computer won't take up as much energy as a lot of the older inefficient equipment that we've had in the broadcast world over the years. So and when you order one, you want to get something that's maybe rated maybe 20% over what you think your capacity is, because once you put them in a rack and then, let's see, we're going to buy this satellite receiver. You plug that in. We're going to get this. So you start plugging things into the load without taking into consideration that you're increasing the load for your UPS. It'll run less time, and you may overload it at some point when you do need to go on the battery. So, you got to think about having some extra capacity. Don't get something that's just right at the line for what your load is.
So how do you calculate what your load is? I mean, I'm sure there's a couple of ways of doing it. You could probably look at your meter, right? Or put a probe on the meter or on your main circuit. But
yeah,
is there...
that's one way to do it. You can also, if the equipment has ratings on the back of it, you can calculate it that way. But it's probably better just to measure the load as it is right now, and then estimate another 20 or 30% above that for future expansion. Because UPSs you want to have, they're generally around for about 5 years before the capacitors start going bad in them. I mean, this all varies, but researching this, a lot of people that this UPS may run 12 years. Well, if it doesn't have any load, it probably will. Then again, if you've got it right at the threshold of just blowing up, it's going to last 2 years or whatever. So you want to do your research, but you can calculate the total volt amps of all your devices and multiply it by 1.2, and that'll give you the answer and give you a little buffer. And an ideal UPS will exceed your total volt amp needs. So there's several, and you can look at all this stuff online. But again, you want to do your research, and the pricing on UPSs can vary also. You don't want to get just the cheapest one because it may not have good capacitors in it, and it may not last you 5 years. And what last thing you want to be doing is changing capacitors in your UPS, because it's enough to change the batteries most of the time, because that's your biggest variable is the batteries.
So let me ask this: is and I'm cheating because I kind of know the answer, but surge protection and UPS, same, different?
They all vary. Some have surge protection, some do not. Again, you want to, depending on how your utility power is, historically, you probably, or if your facility has, surge protection in it already, you probably don't need to buy a UPS with surge protection, for example. I mean, if you have a MOV clamping, surge protector on the facility, you probably can get away. You probably won't have surges on your, your UPS. If you're at home, that's more likely not. Or if you're in a smaller radio station or transmitter site and you don't have any surge protection there, then you definitely need to have it on your UPS at least. But in just my personal opinion, all transmitter sites should have a major surge protection circuitry on the incoming power lines, because you have no idea what, I've seen a lot of things happen. You don't want to be, running 134 volts on a, 110 circuit, for example, and that I saw that in Arizona one time. One of my clients was blowing up processors and consoles and all this. And I went out and measured his line voltage. I said, well, if it's the nominal voltage is 135, and then you have a surge above that, well, guess what? Something's got to give. And no wonder he was a DJ, but he's learning how to replace components and, an audio processor in his console and stuff. I said, well, you need to get with the power company and, monitor that. So the power company, is another variable there. So, some are better than others. So, surge protection is important.
I've used the Henry Engineering ones that they don't fit in line, they fit kind of like parallel to your incoming circuit.
Yeah, the sign
So,
systems are excellent. In fact, we've used those at a lot of different transmitter sites I've been at. Haven't had any trouble. They just work, and I think that's why Hank is acquired that brand, because they are so popular and efficient. And I've never heard of one failing on anyone. I'm sure if lightning hit it, it would wouldn't be nice, but short of that. But if lightning did hit it, it would probably protect your equipment, even though the
right,
box blew up. Well, at least maybe it protected your transmitter.
right.
So yeah, you have to look at the whole electrical system all the way through to determine which UPS you want to get, because it's it all works as one big crossword or jigsaw puzzle.
And the Hank is from Henry Engineering. Hank, that's he's the owner of it.
The king of the matchbox, let's say.
The king of the matchbox. Yes, his infamous blue boxes.
Problem solvers for radio stations the world around for 40 or 50 years. I'd swear by them.
Yeah, no, that's kind of off topic. Anyways, we could talk about Henry Engineering fun stuff another time. But UPSs, what type of maintenance do you need to do for a UPS system, and how often would you need to do it?
It doesn't hurt to, when you're, like if you have a couple of racks at your facility or your transmitter site, every visit, you should check everything out. The dehydrator all the way to the batteries, and make sure the batteries aren't swelling. There's no error messages on the front of UPS, assuming they have one. And you want to make sure that the facility stays as clean as possible, because UPSs often have a temperature controlled fan in them, so they will be ingesting lots of outside air to keep the batteries and the circuitry cool. Well, if there's a filter on the front of them, those will fill up with dirt real quick, and you want to make sure that doesn't impair the airflow, because then guess what happens? Everything inside the UPS starts heating up because it's not getting enough air, and it chokes up, and then the batteries go south, or the fan motor dies on you, and then before you know it, it'll be a surprise on a Saturday night at 11 o'clock when off the air. That's when they do that.
Of course, yeah. The worst opportunity that they do. Is there any other types of maintenance? So just fans, kind of keeping the air filtering clean. Is there maintenance that you should bring in an outside company to do that you should not be doing?
If you have a giant, wall-sized UPS that powers your facility, yes, you should have a maintenance contract on a UPS that's that big. If we're talking, for this discussion, I think we're sticking with rack mount, smaller rack mount backup, UPSs for, transmitter sites. And again, it depends on, what your load is. I mean, there's a major backup site here in Los Angeles that inherited a giant UPS from a cell company when they moved into the facility, and that UPS will power their backup transmitter, which is a great thing. But not everyone has that, comes into that kind of situation. So but something like that large, you would not want to have a contract on. If it's something you can install yourself, you should be able to handle. As an engineer, you should be able to handle it yourself. Clean the front filter off, and just one of the things you should always have is a temperature probe. I have one that it's like a radar gun, and you can aim it at things with the infrared beam, just to see if there's anything that's running really hot, whether it's coils in your AM ATU, or a UPS or some piece of equipment. You should always be monitoring temperature as part of your general maintenance anytime you visit a site, or anytime you just go through your facility, because you never know. I mean, an electrical panel can overheat because of a bad connection, and cause a fire. That happened at one of our sites too. Brand new facility, but something wasn't cranked down tight enough, and it caught on fire. We got that on security camera. So everyone was surprised, but you just don't know when these things will happen.
I had a conversation with, speaking of things not being tightened down, Paul Sacriston, and he was telling me that, yeah, there was this one wire that wasn't tightened down in his transmitter and it just misbehaved. Just a random little tiny wire. But yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of misbehaving UPSs, though, I hear you have some show and tell.
Oh, well,
So this is what happens if you don't maintain your UPS.
yes. And you don't maintain your UPS, and you don't look at, you don't look at a little red error message on them that says the battery's running low or whatever. And you don't visit the facility nearly as often as you should. Stuff like this could happen
Ooh.
out of a real UPS.
Ew. That usually happens when you inherit somebody else's UPS, and it's worse for wear than you realize it was.
Well, that particular one was from a facility that my boss had inherited. But you never, batteries are all, they're an unknown. I mean, all the way down to car batteries. I mean, I had a 4-year car battery once that ran 8 years with no problem. Then I had the one that replaced it ran 2 years and blew up in the middle of, the In-N-Out Burger drive-through once. So,
Oh, no.
same car, you just don't know about batteries. Here's another one that came out of a small computer. Yeah, I mean, this is thicker than a lot of the new computers are,
Wow.
and that's a lithium ion one, which is a different discussion. Here's just an alarm battery from a fire
Is that
alarm.
a 9-volt Duracell?
Yeah, 9 volts, but it's got 6 1.5 tiny batteries in it, and Duracell changed their formulation years ago, so they're notorious for the double A's and triple A's leaking, but this is more than leak. This was just sitting in a box with other stuff, and it just decided it was going to go south.
Not connected to anything, just
Not
brand
connected,
new in a box.
not connected to anything, and it didn't leak. And interestingly enough, like the double A's and triple A's that are notorious for leaking and getting acid on the contacts of your clock or flashlight or whatever, and eat the contacts off. This one didn't leak any acid; it just expanded. So depending on which, sometimes batteries will change polarity. Also, I've seen that happen where you put a meter on it and it says plus on it. You put it on there. Well, it's actually, it's putting out negative voltage on a positive terminal. I've had that on car batteries happen before too. And it's, alternators don't like to see that. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so you got to select batteries, very carefully, and get even name brands can be problematic sometimes, but you always want to
Duracell.
these, because that's the weakest link.
Oh my
The pack,
gosh.
right? I mean, that'll happen eventually, but the battery's going to, bite you first.
Wow.
And
Um,
again, having a infrared thermostat or thermometer, helps you, identify these things in advance.
So I'm also putting up a picture that you had sent me earlier on the screen. Tell me about that. It's the you had to do a hack. You're gonna have to use a hacksaw to get the batteries out of that one.
Oh yes. It comes it has I think 4. I call these batteries, like I just showed you, I call them motorcycle batteries.
Yeah.
They're just 12-volt batteries, but they fit they're common in motorcycles, but this particular UPS I think uses 4 of them, and it's got a battery tray because the whole UPS is weighs a ton. So you take out the battery tray and then you can move the UPS around, but the battery tray only came out halfway. And I'm like, the only way to get this out, you don't, because with a battery, you don't want to take a sledgehammer or, chainsaw to it and open up the battery, because then you'll have damage to your eyes. And I mean, they're very dangerous, especially even the lead acid batteries or the gel cell batteries. You don't want to get that liquid all over you. So you don't want to open up a battery because, you never know when I've had one explode before. So you want to carefully get those things out and recycle them somewhere else, but to get that tray out, I'm going to have to take a hacksaw to this little bar that's on the top of the UPS. Otherwise, I got to throw the UPS away, and it's a perfectly good UPS. It just needs new batteries, but somebody went way too long without looking at it. And
Wow.
And this particular facility was notorious in just replacing a UPS. If the batteries went bad, they just buy a new UPS because it was allegedly cheaper to buy a UPS than it was to buy the batteries for it. So I ended up with a pile of UPSs everywhere. This is where this one came from too. I mean, that's insane. I mean, all this stuff ends up in a landfill somewhere if you're not careful. So you have the cost factor too, whether it's cheaper to replace the whole UPS with new batteries, or just replace the batteries. And a brand new UPS could give you less time than the one you're throwing away.
And you did send me another picture here of a swollen battery. Is that a different one than the one you had on your desk there, or is that the same one?
No, that's a different one. That one I found online. Boss gave me this other one today, but again, you can see how they, how they will behave when when they get hot. I mean, sometimes they're in unair conditioned facilities, which is not real. If you have a transmitter site that doesn't have air conditioning, you either need to be in the Arctic, or you got to have fans on it or something, because stuff overheats, and heat is the worst enemy for equipment, as you well know, especially batteries, and that's what they'll do when they get hot.
Oh my gosh.
And unhappy.
Yeah. Dangerous stuff if you don't take care of them.
Talk about the battery safety, where you don't want to, before you remove a battery, you want to discharge it. You want to let the UPS run all the way down, because you don't want to have because the battery will still be charged once you take it out. So you want to have it as the lowest voltage you could possibly, be on the terminals. You don't want to crush or drop or mutilate a battery, like I mentioned before. Heat is a bad thing for them, or you don't want to apply pressure to, with a crowbar to get it out of a UPS either, because you can crack the casing, and then that, who knows what's going to be inside to surprise you. And, so you want to, you just want to, you don't want to abuse them.
Well, any final thoughts and words about UPSs and backup power?
I want to mention real quick, while we're on batteries, now, UPSs use, regular, dry cell batteries. However, computers use lithium ion polymer batteries. Well, those are even more dangerous than the motorcycle batteries that you put in a UPS. Those have been known to explode in airplanes, catch on fire in somebody's laptop, because they covered up the air vents, and they can swell for various reasons. So you want to use caution on even lithium ion batteries too, because they're just as common. And they charge, they don't like to charge fast, even though the consumer industry wants them, wants everything, now, wants it to charge fast. Well, that's the worst thing you do with a lithium ion battery. So, if you can charge it, it's a regular trickle rate, it's better than, putting it on a 10 amp charger and then having the thing explode on you. So, battery safe. I can't stress battery safety enough to everyone.
Battery safety is very important. Getting acid on you, not worth it.
No, it'll leach your clothes.
Or a fire.
Or shock. But, most of the time, when these batteries go south on you, they do pose a fire hazard. So, because, you don't know what's next to it in your, but what else is going to fail in your UPS or wherever you've got the battery, So that's pretty much, that's pretty much it for the batteries 101 or UPS is 101, I guess I could say.
Well, I appreciate you taking a few minutes and talking UPSs with me. I know it's something that I'm dealing with professionally or in the day job that I have here, and it's something a broadcast engineer deals with pretty regularly, and it's a pretty big thing too.
And you could go to college for 8 years. A lot of this stuff that we learn on the job isn't in a textbook. I mean, technology changes so rapidly that, if you're on the job, you'll learn faster than you would, sitting at a class and living in a dorm for, your college career. So, that's another aspect and everything changes so fast. You just got to keep up with it.
Well, one last thing I want to point out is you are wearing your SBE regalia.
Oh, yeah.
And tell us about the SBE. I know I've mentioned it on my channel before, but somebody else needs to say something other than me.
Well, the SBE Society, broadcast engineers and technicians, is is a national organization. There's chapters all over the country. LA's is chapter 47. San Diego, I believe, is 35. You could tell me what the one in Denver is, but
48.
but we're all about education. We want to bring in newer technicians and engineers. We want to also merge the gap between engineers that can do AM directionals and transmitter sites with people that know IT, like the back of their hand, because IT people are taught, oh, it's a 9 to 5 job. Well, as you know, if you run a radio station and you're responsible for keeping it on the air, that ain't a 9 to 5 job. I don't care what they may sell you. So we want to bridge that gap. So we have IT people that understand the technical side of the transmission operation, and by the same token, we want to bring in crusty old engineers like me that may not know everything about IP. And we have different classes that we have for throughout the SB. There's courses online, and we want to bring in younger talent, because there's not enough engineers coming into the business that are that are young these days. Very few, but you got IT people running around all over the place, because to them it's an easy job. I mean, they probably had iPhones since they were 4 years old, So it's it's an educational thing. It's what we're all about.
Excellent.
Oh, and we have different presentations from different experts or manufacturers or whatever, and we're not there to sell a particular brand of equipment, but the manufacturer's representative will be an expert on his field and can guide us into some new technology that they may be developed for their particular products. And there's all sorts of new technology, differences out there to learn about. So SV is all about teaching people.
Well, thanks, Xrey, for being on this channel. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on and talking about UPSs. So awesome. And thank you for being a part of this channel. I appreciate you being here. In fact, you know what? This video right here might be something you're interested in. I did upload this one just recently, or there's always, this playlist that's right here that you might be interested in. All right, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning.